Hey guys, welcome to the panel today. My name is Dennis O'Malley. I am CEO and co-founder of a company called ReadyPulse. We work with a lot of outdoor brands to do two things: to find them social influencers, help measure that social influence, and help make a lot of that social content shoppable. You'd see our content and our technology on sites like O'Neill, Adidas Outdoor. You'll see it on Skullcandy, Stance, a number of different places. So we're pleased here today to have the second year of the panel. Last year of the panel we really focused on how brands are leveraging athletes in marketing and what the role of athletes were within social media. Today we're taking it to a new level, given that the trend of leveraging athletes across social media and social influencers is nothing new. But what is relatively new is the way that that influence and that traffic that is driven from those influencers and athletes is being measured, as well as the actual impact that they have on commerce, both online, on the sites, on retailers, and in stores. So the session title today is Navigating the Future of Athlete Marketing, Brand Storytellers or Social Affiliates. The description of it is you're going to gain valuable insight of future of athlete sponsorships. And certainly we have a diverse panel, and we're going to be debating just our perspectives around it. So we'll take about 45 minutes on some questions. After that 45 minutes, we'll go into a Q&A. Everybody's always shy at first to have a Q&A, but last year, once somebody broke the seal on that, and we had their first question, there was a lot of engaging, lively conversation, so we'd certainly encourage that. But I'd love to introduce my guests and to have them introduce themselves, both in terms of who they are, what they do, and just a general sense of what their overall perspective is in terms of athlete sponsorships and marketing. Nina.
Hey everyone, my name is Nina Williams. I'm a climbing athlete representing Adidas Outdoor, 510 Footwear, Petzl hardware equipment, Giddy Organics, and Gnarly Nutrition. I also do some social media managing for the North American sector of Adidas Outdoor, and I'm really excited to hear any questions you guys can throw at me.
Awesome. Steve.
Steve Ward, I'm the GM for O'Neill, and probably like a lot of you, I'm learning to navigate the future from a social media standpoint with athletes and really trying to find what it's going to look like for our brand with our athletes and ambassadors, and really that kind of merges into one being, not just an athlete, but the ambassador and the storytelling as well.
Absolutely. Jeff.
So I'm Jeff Snow. I'm the Global Community Manager at Smartwool, which is a dangerously nebulous term. It means I'm responsible for social marketing and digital marketing and kind of all communications online. I think every year the show gets more exciting and there's more talk around social media and digital marketing, and this is a really timely topic that I'm really interested to hear what you guys have to say.
Cool, so let's work on definitions first. So Nina, you're an athlete. What's the difference between a sponsored athlete, an athlete representing a brand, non-sponsored athlete? Give us your definition, and then Jeff, I'd love to hear your difference between like an athlete and a social influencer.
So an athlete, for me, just means being represented by a company. Essentially, I am given the freedom to do what I love, and that's what I love about my companies right now, and they give me the tools to do that. So Adidas Outdoor outfits me with all of my clothes, 510 gives me my footwear, Petzl gives me my gear, and that allows me to go out and inspire people to live the lifestyle that they want to do by seeing what I'm doing on my social media. So as an athlete, it's my job to not only project my lifestyle, but also to project product for the company. But for me, personally, it's important to do that in a very organic way and to not push the product onto the consumer, so it's a pretty fine line to walk as an athlete.
And Jeff, can you walk us through what you consider an athlete and somebody who's like a social advocate or social influencer?
Sure, we have athletes and it's pretty much the same situation as Nina, and we really look at them as a tool to help us build better product and build credibility in the brand story. We have anybody that's just a sock sponsored athlete all the way head to toe, Smartwool. But on the social side, we work with a number of our fans in the social community, and we support them with product, sometimes a little financial support to get a trip done if there's a specific goal or trip that's really of interest for us. And I think that line is getting more and more blurred because that person could be a pro climber, but just not sponsored by us, and we're really interested in what they're doing and want to help them out. So it's really kind of challenging to navigate like the difference between a truly sponsored athlete and a social influencer, and it's getting hard.
Yeah, no, it definitely makes sense, and we see a lot of people where those lines are blurred. Steve, for you, what do you and your team look for when you're going to make an investment in somebody, whether it's using them within campaigns or an actual sponsorship? And we'd love to get the audience perspective of how many like inbound interests you have around people giving their crazy surf video day and saying, hey, I got to be sponsored, versus ones where you go out and you actually find them.
We're probably much more stuck in an older model, and we really have been very competitive based. So we farm kids from the youngest levels and get involved in amateur surfing, and really have groomed a number of the world's best athletes all the way up onto the world tour. So that's kind of the model we've always been in, and we still really like that because being involved with the kids is great. But as things have changed, so have athletes, and it's not just the competitive side and really the storytelling side, where we have athletes like Timmy Reyes, who has been at the highest level at the world stage as a competitor, has now really become an adventure surfer and takes trips up to Canada and in the woods and camps with bears and craziness when he gets out of the water. So those storytelling opportunities for us have become more important, and we're really looking at athletes and ambassadors like that as much as the competitive side. So we're really navigating all sides of surfing, again, to tell brand stories that are relevant to our brand.
Makes sense. And Jeff, how do you guys find your social influencers advocates? I mean, I'm sure people are saying all the time, hey, I'm going on a big hike, kick me down 30 pairs of socks, or somebody says, hey, I have 500,000 Instagram followers, look at me, I can get your word out, pay me $300 and I'll mention Smartwool to my Instagram followers.
Right. We definitely have some criteria in place to make sure we're working with the right people, but really the person has to be a right fit for us. We use the phrase, an ordinary person doing extraordinary things. We have a fan who put together her own road trip plan of going to all these hot springs in the Pacific Northwest as like an homage to the end of summer, and we just thought that was kind of a cool idea. And hot springs are probably one of the more underutilized vacation spots, especially in like the outdoor community. Rarely do you find yourself hopping into the hot springs on your way to some other destination. So like that type of unique story plus a unique person is a great combination for us to go after. Obviously we're interested in followings, obviously we're interested if they're actually truly an influencer, but we'll work with somebody if it feels right, and if it doesn't feel right, we're happy not to do it. We'll still send them a pair of socks and say, hey, thanks for the interest, but we want to make sure it's the right fit for us, because I think that credibility is more important than potentially anything else besides the overall story.
Awesome. Nina, you're awesome at social, and you're a climber at the top of her game. So brands find you. Tell us how that courtship works. Right? When they're approaching you, how do you, what does a brand do that approaches you well, and what have been some things where you don't get a good vibe from a brand and you're like, hey, I don't think this is going to work out?
Yeah, so for me personally, when a brand approaches me, I'll do the same. I'll check out their social Instagram, I'll check out their athletes and see what kind of vibe they're bringing to the table. And it's kind of like speed dating. You look at this company, you're like, would we get along? Would I be able to fit into their image? Yes or no? And if I can decide, look at their image and say yes right off the bat, then I'll explore a little further. But with some companies, if they're not active on social, if they don't post quality pictures, if they don't seem to utilize any athletes at all, that's a huge turnoff for me. But honestly, I do a lot of shopping myself for sponsors. I'm pretty happy where I am right now, but in the past I have actually actively made myself visible in my social media in order to look at sponsors and say, hey, here's what I can bring to the table to you. This is what I can do for you, and I think companies like that.
And what's your Instagram handle so everybody can look you up and follow you?
It's a little hard to spell, maybe. It's Shenenegins. SHENENAGINS.
Might be hard to spell, but it's catchy.
It is a little catchy, right? Like shenanigans, but
I love it.
Yep, Shenenegins. And again, I'm very true to myself, and I'm not willing to compromise my values and my image.
Yep.
And if a company can match up with that, then all the better.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then Steve, you mentioned, hey, some of those things that O'Neill does, an iconic brand. It's certainly well known in all the endemic industries that you're in. If you have a surfer who is antisocial and it's like, dude, I don't want a phone. I just want to surf, and I'm not into technology, and I don't want to do that. How does that work within your marketing efforts? Because it seems to me some of the all of my eggs in one basket around the very top surfer isn't being used nearly as much as, hey, I want a much more breadth around, whether it's from a worldwide audience, from different genders and different stages within people's career. But if somebody's antisocial, how do you guys manage that?
I haven't met an antisocial athlete, to tell you the truth, right? Even the Timmy Reyes, who, again, having navigated his own career, the highs of being on the tour and falling off the tour and trying to discover what he's going to do without competitive surfing. So to watch that transformation take place, and he's not necessarily a very social person, but he's telling great personal and relevant brand stories for us by becoming this. So I don't know if there is an antisocial athlete on our roster, and again, I don't know that we'd have a whole lot of value or a place for them if they weren't. Now, maybe they are important to a specific region, and again, we do have a little bit of a regional approach to athlete sponsorships and endorsements, just because we want to make sure we're covered in key areas, but that social engagement is becoming more important, is actually being a part of our contracts at this point.
Yeah, no, we see that a lot as well, and I'm going to bring up the contracts, as I'd love to get your idea about sponsorships as well. But Jeff, just going off of that theme, in the outdoor industry, it's not like the traditional big, professional sports, whether it's a football, basketball, baseball. There's something about outdoor athletes that consumers relate to. How do you guys talk about that? And when you guys are looking to sponsor athletes, to say, hey, this person's right for my brand, and these people are the ones that I can use to inspire, my consumers to, and that you're going to use their content to elevate within your marketing.
Yeah, I think that's a really big question that probably a lot of people are dealing with, is really trying to figure out the right fit and then how to deploy that right fit. And for us, we're fortunate in that we were looking for people that were already interested in us, right? We have such a heritage in snow sports, we have such a heritage in the outdoors, that there's probably a lot of athletes out there that have used our product or use our product without being sponsored by us. And so we're fortunate that somebody like Kaylin Thorne, who we sponsor, was already using our product. And because she does a really great job of this kind of showing the context of what we all celebrate in the outdoor industry through her social activity and through her own lifestyle, that it was just a really natural fit. And that's what we kind of look for, these people that are great at what they do, great people beyond what they do as a discipline or a profession, and then what else? Are they multifaceted? Are they an artist? Are they something more than just a singular defined thing? And when that works out the right way, we're very interested in working with them.
Yeah, and you have an incredible product and an incredible brand. It's amazing to me seeing a different part of the industry where there's a very big niche part of the industry called influencer marketing, where you actually, as a brand or you own a product, where you go pay somebody that has no affiliation with your brand and may not be endemic to your consumers, to say, hey, here's $5,000, go do a Vine video for me, and I want to see how many likes that you get or how many eyeballs that you get. It's amazing to me. I want to say to those brands who ask us to do it, because we don't do any of that, I want to say make a better product. But I think to what you said, is when you can find, the very first level is go out and scan all of social to find out who those people are who are using your hashtag, using your app mentions in your communities, working with your products. I mean, I think that's kind of step one, is to understand that landscape and who rises to the top for sure.
Yeah, and I think knowing where to look, like every channel isn't a gold mine of who maybe you want to be working with in the first place, and understanding that landscape isn't always the same platform to platform, channel to channel, is a really good starting point too.
Awesome. So let's get into some of the meat of it, and then when the meat comes in, money's associated with it. So ReadyPulse has worked with Transworld for a number of years, and we power the exposure meter across social networks. The way and the reason that we got into that is because we managed and ran a lot of athlete programs for people like GoPro and Red Bull, and a lot of the athletes came to us and said, hey, my brands are actually using your data to help determine my stack ranking. I'd like it to be published. And so we worked with Transworld to publish it out, and we called it the social exposure meter. But Nina, I'd love to, because we both work with Adidas Outdoor, great brand, great people. Is Adidas Outdoor here? Do I see him? Great brand, great people, and I'm not wearing the Adidas Outdoor, but I'm wearing Adidas Originals.
As long as it's the 3 stripes, it's okay.
Exactly. But when you're looking at sponsorships and sponsorship dollars and just trying to compare yourself and stack rank other athletes, how do you use that data? How do your brands use that data, and how do you use that data?
So it's funny you bring that up, because earlier on we were discussing the Like It Want It program, which I think is hugely applicable for the relationship between sponsors and athletes. So in the past, it's been really hard for sponsors or for athletes to go to our sponsors and say, hey, this is how valuable we are. We've been able to say we have this many Instagram followers, or this is how much engagement we have, but now the Like It Want It program allows us to say, hey, we're actually selling product for you. You might be able to explain it a little bit better, but for those who don't know what the Like It Want It program is, it's on Instagram. Essentially, you have a link in your bio that allows you to click it, and it produces a mirror image of all of your photos on Facebook. So myself as an athlete, if I posted a photo of me climbing in this outfit and someone asked where this jacket came from, they can click on this link, click on the photo, and it would bring them to the product that I'm wearing. So keeping track of all this data actually puts monetary value on the athlete. So it hugely helps us to go to our sponsors and say, hey, we're this valuable, we deserve a raise. Or, we're not actually doing that well, what can we do differently?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think great perspective. And then Steve, I've worked with you and your teams in the past. You guys we've had a great relationship over the years where I've seen agents put in contracts in front of you guys and say, hey, because there's 1 million Facebook fans, that this is what should increase in this person's sponsorship. And we all know, we talked about this last year, is that it's not about the fans or the following, it's actually about the engagement of what it is. So how do you deal with the whole agent part of it when an agent, most of the time they go buy fans, right? They say, hey, here's how many fans are. They don't have the science around how that stack ranks or where their engagement is across other athletes, and they go to a brand and they say, pay me more money because it's more social reach.
God bless agents. I haven't found that they're very sophisticated in what they're bringing to the table from a data standpoint, right? And you can't believe everything you see for fan base or whatever.
Sure.
So to your point, we don't really put a lot of merit. We know the athletes and the ambassadors that we're interested in that fit our brand story. So it's a huge part of it. And again, I think really with the athletes that I deal with, they don't really know what they have at their fingertips. They don't know how to really activate themselves, and they really need to be trained. My son is actually an 18-year-old professional surfer, and I'm trying to explain to him, that although I'm not in the marketing department, here's how you become more valuable to the brand. This is what you need to do. So the agent thing and how they're trying to navigate it, really, our marketing department is really good. We've got an amazing director named Gartarlo who really knows how to identify the athletes that fit the brand and that have the longevity to go down the path that we want to with that particular athlete, whether that's competitive or other. Yeah.
Awesome.
Even aside from the numbers and the monetary value of an athlete, I think it is worth mentioning that the engagement aspect on social media is really huge, because nowadays, in case you didn't know, you can buy Instagram followers. You can have a fake number up there. So it's really important to take a look at the number, but then take a look at some of the pictures and see, okay, if this person has 1 million followers or 500,000 followers, but they're only liking or getting 2,000 to 3,000 likes on their photos, that's not a really great engagement rate. But if you really look at an athlete who might have 20 to 50,000 followers and they're still getting 3,000, 5,000 likes on their photos, they're answering questions in the comments, I think that's really valuable as a personal aspect of an athlete. Versus the monetary value, because your athlete is connecting with your customers, they're making a name for themselves, and therefore making a name for your brand.
Awesome. And Jeff, to build on that, within e-commerce for the outdoor industry, right, it's a booming business. A lot of companies are focused on it, right? There's higher margins, you sell direct, you don't have to sell through Amazon, you get customer data, you can build customer loyalty. Still maybe a very small percentage of their overall sales, let's say 1 to 10% on average, but very profitable, growing business. In e-commerce, a lot of e-commerce professionals are very data driven, and affiliate type of models work very well. They know exactly how much to give people on referral commissions. They know how much they're going to pay through their actual retailer sites, like the PacSuns, the Tillys, et cetera. But what hasn't happened in the outdoor industry really is they haven't seen social influencers or athletes yet as affiliates, to where, as Nina was saying, if an athlete is driving this many brand impressions or actually this many conversions, there hasn't been that closed loop to actually give visibility into the athletes. Where do you think the outdoor industry is going? Do you think that will go towards that way? Do you think that it won't? And I'd love to get your guys' perspectives on that as well.
I think for the people that have the ability to do the tracking, it could very easily go that way. I mean, we talk about athletes and social influencers, and really we're talking about all these different touch points that are access to the brand throughout, a life cycle of a consumer or a path to purchase if somebody's researching. And, just like an ad attribution model, something's taking credit for it every step of the way. And if that's an athlete or a social influencer or something else, that credit's deserved. And so once that kind of attribution's really defined and able to be delivered at say a small scale all the way up to a larger, multi-billion-dollar company scale, then I think you have a lot of people that'll take advantage of it, because the data says it's right here. You're actually influencing people in a positive way around your brand, your product, the category level, all the way down to a very specific SKU. It could be dramatically influential in the entire path to purchase.
And Steve and Nina, I'd love to get your take. So in the high fashion industry, it's a very well accepted process for a lot of the high fashion companies to find and activate a bunch of bloggers who are going to show off and take a picture of their new dress or their new shoes, write a blog about it, and 99% of those bloggers are compensated by those brands and the retailers off of affiliate models. So anybody who goes on their site, clicks on their link on the buy now, they might get a discount code, goes back, and those bloggers can make a very good living off of that. A lot of athletes these days actually drive a ton of brand impressions and a ton of conversions. They don't necessarily, as you said, Steve, they don't necessarily know that, and there seems to be, at least in the outdoor industry, somewhat of a divide around using an athlete as a brand storyteller that has nothing ever to do with sales and buying something and money and revenue and profit, versus other brands who say, absolutely, this is my best digital marketing vehicle, and I'm going to make sure to compensate them based on their performance about how well they do for me. So I'd love to just get your guys' perspectives of how you see the outdoor industry going, if it's staying more towards brand storytellers, or if you think it'll be towards a social affiliate model.
Well, I think there's definitely something to be said of the fashion world versus the outdoor world. In the fashion world, generally your priority is to look good, right?
Yep.
Outdoor worlds, maybe your priority is to look good, but for most of us, the priority is performance.
Absolutely.
So if you take a picture of Chris Sharma and you put him in some tidy whities and totally shirtless climbing on a wall, but he's got some Evolve shoes on, generally people won't be like, well, it's Chris Sharma, I've got to have these shoes. They might,
Right.
I would hope that most of us would be like, well, he's climbing on a building, he's in tidy whities, what is he doing? Like,
Right,
it's not
right.
real fashion for us.
Totally.
But there is a balance, and I think that utilizing athletes as marketers, as advertising is huge, because people, us as athletes, we have a pretty big visibility and we have a fan base. So people look at our photos because they like us and they like the photos we post. And maybe they'll look at a jacket that we're wearing. They won't necessarily maybe be like, well, Nina is wearing that jacket, so I have to have that jacket. But if they're saying, oh, Nina's out in Bishop, it's really cold out there, I'm going to Bishop in 2 weeks, maybe I should check out her jacket.
Yep.
It's a really fine line between overdoing it and underdoing it. Because on the other side, if you have storytellers of the average Joe going out and going into the wilderness with their backpack, there's that product there, but there's no connection to that
Sure.
person in the advertisement.
There's no performance.
There's no performance, yeah, but
Yeah.
there's also no likability. If you
Sure.
take the average athletic model who doesn't have a following, who just goes with
Yeah.
whatever company,
Right.
and people look at that, it's like staring at a generic REI model.
Yeah.
Like, they're wearing a backpack, it looks cool, they're out in the wilderness,
Right.
but who are they? What
Yeah.
are they doing? What's the story behind it?
Yep.
So I think there's a good combination to be found there.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Steve.
I think authenticity has a big role in that. I mean,
Absolutely.
in our business, on the women's side, bloggers are very important, but there isn't really an authentic blog vehicle that I think the very core community is going to engage with. You
Right.
can sure there's plenty of places you can buy reviews and that's it for product, but I think that's where, again, athletes don't know what they have, and maybe brands, at least in our space, haven't activated them that way, but they are the most authentic voice to speak about the products and their performance.
Yep.
In the surf world, surfers are weird people. They don't necessarily, they want to be left alone a little bit.
Sure.
And I find them very different than like the SUP athletes, where
Sure.
the voice of an SUP athlete, like people want to hear it, they want to engage. So I'd like to see that happen more with surf athletes, and again, I think it's going to come down to really this new generation
Yep.
really learning how to activate themselves and their
Sure.
brands much better in an authentic way that doesn't feel real forced.
Yep. And so let me provide a context to get your guys' take on this. So I started Ready Pulse about 4 years ago. One of the inspirations was a athletic company called Title IX, and it was my wife's favorite magazine. And I said, Tanya, why do you always love this magazine, Title IX? And she gave it to me, and she said, look, their models are customers. And to your point, they all had a little story, and you followed them, and you were able to relate to their authenticity. But they were all rocking bodies, and they were all super fit. And it was that incredible mix of an aha to me was, well, I think the future of marketing is actually to put your customers front and center of your marketing. And then it was well, why doesn't every brand out there actually use their best consumers to be their marketing vehicle when I, as a consumer, relate to that the most, it's the most authentic, and it provides me the best context. That is the best social proof. And now today, all of the millennials and everybody else, they're on their cell phones, and they're on social for hours a day. There's 2 billion people on social networks daily, and they're on their phones all day, and they're seeing Instagram photos and Facebook posts and Twitter, but you guys as brands can't advertise all day on Facebook and Twitter. It's just diminishing returns. There's no way to advertise on Instagram. So my question to brands, to Steve and Jeff, is if putting your customers front and center of your marketing is the most authentic form of marketing, how come that doesn't happen all the time? What prevents the entire industry from going that authentic to say, our customers are our marketing, we're putting it out there?
It's a really good question because we actually have done that in the past. We have a program called Fan Field Tester, and when it first launched, we actually had crowdsourced photo shoots to take our fans into an environment, go shoot assets, and then put them out on national level marketing collateral, whether it's digital or print or what have you. And the program really featured these people that had core passion for us. But there's also a little bit of a need to have more context around what is happening with the general user. And I think that's where the athletes can really come in and elevate that story. And I think it's hard to find the balance between these are the people that I really aspire to be, and these are the people that I really actually am. And
Sure.
This is a group I go out with. I'm not going to climb that, but I'm going to do this bouldering session for a half hour and then go drink a few beers and be happy with my day, And I think that's a really hard thing for people to figure out is what's the right mix. And I think truly working as a partner with these people, from an athlete all the way down to a social influencer, really helps that process get mapped out a lot easier.
Steve, what do you think?
That's a tough one. Our athletes really are our customers. They
Yep.
grew up in our community, and they are, again, authentic users of the product,
Yep.
and that's why they're so important. We have ambassador programs, again, at the grassroots level, kids on the floor, and whether they're athletes or just associates on the retail floor, that we use that way, but in a different way, just in their small communities and
Sure.
not really in the brand marketing. So for us, we haven't gotten there, and I think having a little bit different profile or elevated profile is really what we're after in our marketing. I'd love to access them more and find those ways, but I think the surfing community is so small, which is really who we're targeting.
Yep.
We know our audience, after being around for 62 years, is much larger than the 18-year-old
Sure.
surf kid.
Right.
But that's a challenge for us, is how to
No,
engage
makes sense.
further. Yeah.
Great answer.
I think it's definitely worth noticing that the theme of authenticity is still really strong here. So if you have even the average person or an athlete in a paid advertisement, I think a lot of customers assume, well, this person's in this advertisement, they're being paid by this company to say good things about their product. Why should I believe them? So for the athlete, it's, as far as, at least for me, it's my job to not necessarily sell the product and push the product in people's faces, but to merely show them by wearing it and be like, hey, this is what I'm wearing. If you like it, great. But what Adidas did for a while is actually give out, a bunch of free clothes, free jackets, to people to actually try it and say, hey, don't believe us, just try it for yourself and see what you think. So by having the customer, or giving out free stuff to customers and having them speak for it themselves without necessarily paying for their positive reviews, I think that's much more effective than taking, a legitimate customer who is, has paid their dues for the product, but then putting them on the stage and being like, this person buys all of our stuff, like everyone else might be like, did they really, or are you just paying them to say that? There's always that uncertainty that
it's hard, and we've worked, we probably index and analyze 1 million social photos for over 100 brands a day, everywhere from Nike to Stance to other upstart brands. And what is very clear is 99.9% of the content that is being generated from the general public doesn't convert. So it's not a lot of brand impressions and not a lot of conversion. So while I know that I relate to really authentic photos, I think what I don't realize is those really authentic photos are taken by people who are still very a high level performance of their game and also have great photo shoots. So when you look at saying, hey, 0.1% of your kind of crowdsourced content is actually going to move the needle for you in commerce, that's hard to get to, right? And that's a combination of what you guys say is that it is that level of person who's authentic, but a level of person who has a good social following and also fits your brand, which is hard to find people. What marketing initiatives, you said you participated in one with Adidas, but I'd love to hear from you guys, like what are some your other public-facing type of campaigns or activations that you've had for athletes or ambassadors have generally worked really well?
You want to take that one?
I'll go. So we've done a lot of social engagement, social outreach. Obviously, there's always the photo contest, the sweepstakes, that type of stuff. But with Fan Field Tester, we seed product out to a select group of people that essentially apply for it, right? We have X number of pairs of run socks, who's interested, and tell us why. Then we package it up. I write a note to the person and kind of give them a little instruction on, hey, welcome to the program. These are the hashtags that we're interested in you using, and then we're also interested in direct feedback, like what did the product do for you? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What would you change? And then it goes out. So we do a couple of those a year to the population of people that are in the program. And so then as this product's going to market, we'll stick with the run theme. As run ships and gets on floor, then social buzz starts to go up around the product because there's 100 people posting about the product they just got. And that seems to work really well for us just from an awareness standpoint. And run is new for Smartwool. We launched the product line about 2 years ago officially, so it's definitely more of an awareness play for us. But that type of model can apply pretty much to any product anywhere at any given point in time. And we saw a lot of success with that, actually.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Steve?
I think we would probably have to admit that we're lacking in that type of social outreach. We've done some stuff with campaigns around our marquee products, whether that's our highest end board short or our signature board short for an athlete like Jordy Smith, who's our marquee world stage athlete, and even done animated shorts and tried to get engagement via hashtags, etc. But I'd definitely say that our brand really needs to focus on that. And again, the marketing department is challenged to do that and find new ways to engage. And again, product learning is a great one. Yeah, and so we've done a little bit of that more in surveys, but that's something that we need to really focus on.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Nina, what great brand campaigns have you participated in that you've liked?
I mean, honestly, I've participated working with photographers and the companies by giving out free prints and free clothes at the same time over Instagram have been really, really popular.
Oh, very cool.
I mean, people love free stuff. That's always one of the best go-tos. So my boyfriend is a photographer, and he has a lot of great prints. If you guys want to follow him on Instagram, it's @Bono's Photos. Just a little slide in there. But creating that partnership also builds great relationships between the athlete and the photographer and the company. So that has been beneficial not only for the consumer, but for everyone involved. So photo contests are always the good go-to. But honestly, just giving out deeply discounted product cards or
Yep.
just entirely free stuff and being like, hey, just try it
Yep.
and tell your friends about it. And that's always been a really good go-to for us as well.
Yeah, for sure. One of the clips that I'd recommend everybody to go look at is Gartner. It's just Gartner.com. They have a digital marketing conference. The North Face was asked to speak there to be a best-in-class advocacy marketer. They talked about their TNF locals. So if you look up just ReadyPulse and TNF locals on Google, you'll see their ambassador program. And they really did an amazing job about doing product seeding with a lot of authentic type of athletes who they were able to seed product with and be able to get a lot of great shots when they actually did their product launches. And that's one thing that's really tough, right? Is to be able to balance the Jordy Smith, camera shoot that you're going to do that's going to be really high profile, but then, how do you surround that with some very high quality shots because you're going to go after different demographics and different people, and seeding the product to some of those other folks outside of those top athletes have been pretty successful for brands. So we're going to open it up to questions here in a minute. But what I'm going to ask the panelists for is just some words of advice. So to Jeff, if you can think of some words of advice for other digital marketers.
Sure.
Steve, if you could think of some advice for just athletes and what you would say in terms of trying to get exposed. And then Nina, if you could wrap it up and say, hey, talking to the brands, if they really want to leverage their athletes, what should they do? So Jeff, starting with you.
Okay, I would say a really tasty nugget would be to, everything we're talking about today is a part of a bigger system, and to not necessarily focus in these little silos or campaign to campaign. Everything needs to be kind of working together and integrated together. So the athlete program needs to be supporting whatever the seasonal initiative, which needs to be supporting whatever the retailer's initiative is, or your own direct-to-consumer initiative, and how the system really works together and flows. Because once that process is in place, you can plug in and out different campaigns, different tools, because it's not a one-size-fits-all solution year over year. It would be nice if it was, maybe get a raise if it was. But once that's figured out, you'll have a much better handle on kind of how you actually address the true business needs year-round.
Awesome. Steve, any advice to young and up-and-coming athletes?
Yeah, I think really to get some guidance and some perspective from the marketing teams you're working with, because I think athletes quite often, at least in my world, come to the table with a sense of entitlement. And that's great. Maybe some of them deserve that, but maybe most of them really don't understand what they can bring to the table and how they can engage and support, whether it's seasonal initiatives or just brand initiatives that last for years. So I think really that's what the new athlete needs to understand. And you spoke with how you engage with your sponsors, which most people that I've seen, and again, they're young people and young adults, they just don't understand really what they're bringing to the table. So, and I think a lot of brands haven't necessarily put the time into them to train them. I mean, there's media training for professional athletes in team sports, and there's nothing like that for probably the action sports and outdoor community. So I think that we really can invest the time in the young athletes and train them to be better advocates.
Makes a ton of sense. Nina, what advice do you have to brands leveraging athletes or trying to recruit athletes?
So similar to what Steve was saying, it's really important to kind of train your athletes. So if you're a brand and you've just acquired this great athlete but you don't really know anything about them, it's really important to communicate and to build a really good relationship with that athlete. Because the athlete, wants to represent you well and vice versa, but the athlete has to be happy and you have to be happy. And if one of those two components are not happy, things are going to go a little south. So it's always really important to keep open communication on both what the athlete wants and what the brand wants, and then it'll create a harmonious combination from there.
Awesome. So let's open it up for questions. There is a mic right up here. So if you don't mind, just grabbing the mic, and we'll take the questions. And I don't know if there's
The first one is always the hardest.
Or if you don't want to grab the mic, shout it out, and we'll just repeat the question.
Or we blew it away.
Yes, sir. Checkered shirt. Sorry, I had a little bit of trouble hearing you. I'm sorry about that. Yep. Sure. So if I got the question straight, what's the difference between outdoor marketing and athlete marketing? Oh, I'm sorry, outdoorists. So how would you guys view outdoorists versus athletes?
For me, it's somebody that's just engaged in the community still. It's somebody that, and by community I mean the outdoor community. An outdoorist is still somebody that's passionate about what they use. They make choices in purchasing that product based on the passion and the performance of the product. That person is equally valuable in the system of marketing that we've been talking about today. Just like an athlete, the function, I think, depends on the goals. Like if Smartwool's goals are to really cultivate a grassroots community of people that are, really interested in through hiking trails, there's no sponsorships at the true athlete level for that, and that would be entirely made up of outdoorists. And I think they fit right into the puzzle, just like a normal piece would.
Yeah, and if you look at Smith Optics, does an incredible job with us. They're a customer of ours. Even if you're on your mobile phone, you look at Smith Optics, they put 4 or 5 different social photos, Instagram photos on their site. We make them shoppable. It's their highest performing and converting content that they produce on their website. They do a massively cool job with it, both outdoorists and athletes. Yes, sir.
How are you guys? Thank you so much for all the information you've been sharing. It's appreciated immensely.
Awesome.
My name is Shane. We have a small stand-up paddleboard company called Shibumi out of Colorado.
Cool.
Supyes.com in case anyone wants to check it out. Question is, how would you suggest that small companies begin to look towards this type of marketing and reach out to athletes? What we find is with athletes, a lot of them they're already holding on to the bigger brands and bigger companies that can help them and support them more. What advice would you have for us looking to not the biggest athletes, but different people to be able to draw into our brand, get them involved and activated, and help share the passion that we have for the
Awesome,
sport?
great question.
I would say that that's where you really have to engage this enthusiast community and really look to a grassroots approach to finding those guys. Because again, you might be getting approached by very entitled athletes already who have garnered the support from bigger brands, and it's going to be tough to wrestle them away without a paycheck. So I think, O'Neill very much so has fought that battle. We're not a public company, and we live with our contemporaries as publicly funded and a lot more revenue and marketing dollars. So we've had to cultivate really at a lower level and a grassroots, and we've nurtured wonderful athletes all the way up to where you can't hold them onto them any longer. So you may be in the same boat, and it really, I just think, is a grassroots and a personal approach to that enthusiast out there.
I think it's really important to look for your most psyched customer, but also your most humble customer too, because again, the idea of creating this relationship and building not only yourself up, but the athlete up as well, it just means that you both will grow at the same time. So it's really about picking that right person that vibes with you too. You want to meet them in person or even through email. If you're just getting a really good sense from that person and nothing negative, then that's a good place to start.
Yeah, and assuming that you're making a killer product, which I'm sure you are, and I've definitely heard of the name, there's 3 things that you want to do. You want to promote your athlete. So every athlete wants to get their name out there. So put them front and center in your marketing. They're going to love it. They're going to share it. They're going, oh my God, look, I'm on the front page. Oh my God, I'm in an email. Oh my God, I'm in a catalog. Promote your athlete. Number 2, give them a discount that is only good for their fans and their friends, followers, everything else, right? An exclusive kind of discount that they know they can get credit for. You can directly measure what they're driving. Number 3, give them free stuff early. Say, I'm gonna launch this new board with you. Go take some crazy lifestyle shots and we're gonna put this out there and see how it does. You are the one that we picked because you've done well in all other marketing. You do those 3 things, you pick the right athlete who should sponsor your brand because they don't have a commercial interest for you. You can track how well they're driving sales. If they're driving sales, give them their due, give them a 6-7% affiliate amount of sales that they're driving for you. Great question. What else? What other questions out there?
Yeah, great panel. The question is approximately in terms of your total marketing spend, how much do you spend percentage-wise on the endorsement of athletes?
I would say off the top of my head, it's not very big for us. We're a smaller company. We have a smaller revenue, and our athlete team is pretty new, to be honest. So we're pretty much in the early stages of it. But I don't think that sponsorship has to be, 6 figures, 10 figures, whatever it is. Like sponsorship could be a gas card to one of your best customers to go do what they want to do. And then once that project is done, your relationship can continue and grow past that point. But it doesn't have to be a massive amount of money to be effective.
I would support that by saying, having formerly run the O'Neill market, I'm trying to picture a pie chart and I can't give you exact percentages, but we used to be way more athlete driven with no metrics to measure their effectiveness. We just felt like it was the right thing to do. But we have embraced kind of the less is more and really looked for more than just the competitive athlete in our storytelling. So I would say for us, it's a shrinking number as far as true endorsed athletes, but it's having the right ones.
The most savvy marketers who are getting the most return are looking at their paid social ads. They're seeing diminishing returns on that, and they're carving out 10 to 15% of their paid social ad budget, and they're sending that into more organic posts. That means finding and recruiting athletes, supporting the athletes, and using them in their marketing. Did you have a question as well?
I did. You mentioned cultivating an athlete at the lower level, and that makes a lot of sense, and I imagine it's a little less expensive than winning the heart of a more established athlete. But when that athlete evolves and graduates to a higher level, as a company, you feel as though they, I hate this term, maybe owe you something when they do hit that marquee level, and you help them get to that stage. Is there any influence or persuasion that might allow you to say, look, we've been with you for 15 years, we got you to that level, and all of a sudden, this brand who has a lot deeper pockets than I do is capitalizing on your successes where you wouldn't be where you are if we didn't help you to get there. Does that make sense? So how do you win that? And you still don't have the deep pockets to compete with the Adidas or the Nike, but you were there for that athlete as he made his climb to the top.
Well, I've lived through that personally. You don't win. In the end, when it gets to that level, it does come down to money so often. It's painful. There's an athlete that we had with us since he was under 10 years old and is probably one of the highest paid professional surf athletes in the world right now, and he deserves it. He's amazing, and I'd love to have him with us, and especially with what you can do now with an athlete and the social reach. An amazing person, an amazing story, life story, and an amazing surfer. It's painful. I don't know that there's a lot you can do, but again, picking that right athlete and really cultivating it. There is especially for, again, our marketing team who really were actively involved in the formative years for this guy to become what he's become. I think as painful it is to let go, there's also a sense of accomplishment. They helped this guy arrive at that level.
Can you still use them?
No.
Not even a historical?
No.
You can't? That's too bad.
It's over.
I mean, you could say to any athletes after that, you could say, hey, I really helped so-and-so climb the ladder. He's with Prana, he's with Adidas, he's with so-and-so, but I got him there and I can help you get there. So in a way, you can use that other athlete merely as an example and saying, I really helped this athlete out and I can help you out too.
Yeah, in the end of the day, if you're not using data to understand what the impact is on your marketing and sales, then you're not going to make the right decision, right? So my suggestion is you may find deeper pockets because that athlete actually may be driving so much more sales for you and maybe getting you so many more brand impressions that you could cut your ad budget from X to Y and put that into the athlete and actually come out ahead. So if marketers are making decisions without understanding the top of the funnel and the bottom of the funnel about where their investment dollars are going, that's the first thing you got to figure out. And you do that by leveraging tools to be able to help you on the social content part of it, and then being able to track it through the actual conversions online and offline. What else? What else is out there?
Hey, so this is a question that's maybe similar to a lot of these questions, but I'm curious about so like a smaller company looking to acquire new athletes. Do you have any specific examples, possibly, about the discovery of these athletes? You know, a lot of these names we know. You know, we maybe want to grab them, but is there a process that has worked for you guys to discover undiscovered talent? And what do you use to kind of lure them in or bring them up?
You want to take that one, or you?
Sure, I'll go for it. For us, because it's so new, our athlete team is really new. It's coming into its second year basically right now. So the full discovery process has been really interesting because we've come to know some of these people that we've signed just through participating in races or ski events or whatever it may be, to meet them and say, hey, you might be a really great fit. Do you have a sock sponsor? Do you have, you know, a base layer sponsor or whatever it may be? And they don't, and so then we choose to work with them. There's been other instances where, you know, we're just kind of living our life and doing our thing, and this person just keeps popping up as somebody who's creating noise about themselves, and then we dive into them to see if they're available or see if they're interested in working with us on a project. That project turns into 2, 3, 4, and then all of a sudden we've got them signed as an athlete year-round. So I think there's a lot of different ways you can go about it, and I think some of it depends on the goals of your own athlete program. Like if you need athletes to help better influence the product engine of the company, or if you need athletes to better influence the marketing engine of the company, you might want to look in 2 different places, you know, because a really technically proficient athlete might not be the best marketer of themselves without a lot of coaching, and if you need that impact right away, that might not be the right fit, but it could be down the road. So I think it just kind of depends a little bit too. Maybe not the best answer.
There's 2 brands to check out that have done an amazing job doing this from an organic basis, not endemic to this industry, but if you look at Ink Addict, INKADDICT, they simply showcase their customers front and center, and they have an incredible ambassador program. Same thing with FitMark Bags. These are very small companies that have been able to go out and find great ambassadors to be able to rep their products, and they've got a ton of organic marketing through that. So those are different examples. The other thing that I'm just shocked by is a lot of these athletes, their professional shelf lives are so small that there are guys and gals out there who have insanely cool followings who are just Olympic athletes like 3 years ago, but all their sponsorships are gone, and I'm like, all these companies are small companies come up to us and say, where are all these athletes? I'm going, dude, they're right there, right? Just because they may not be competing does not mean that they don't still have a great following of people their similar age and they take great, great photography shots, and they may have reinvented themselves somehow. But that's what I would look to. I would look to those people who are.
Actually, a follow-up question. Kind of post, peak athlete.
Totally. Matt Margetts.
Value that is for.
Check out Matt Margetts on Instagram. The dude has an insane following. Takes Matt Margetts, Margetts, right? Multiple Olympic time, X Games gold medalist, everything else, and I think he might be 30, but his rise in terms of Instagram is way higher than ever was when he didn't have time to take a selfie while he was doing tricks and stuff. So I would look at those people who have credibility within the space, but they may not be active competing athletes. And that's only if you didn't get Nina, right? So we would always recommend Nina first. All right, what about last question? Yes, sir.
Wondering how you guys see the role of social responsibility giving back has involved with being an athlete, branding yourself, as far as also being a company, and how you can enhance your brand, or if you think it's important to market yourself that way.
Awesome.
Oh, yes, 1,010%. So I'm sorry, just to reiterate the question, you asked, do you think it's important for us as athletes and brands to give back, both in an environmental and a community sense? Oh, 110%, because that's how you get your connection with your following. Because at the end of the day, we're all just selling product and schmoozing around, but I want to give back to everyone in a much larger sense than just a jacket or a pair of shoes or the hardest climb that I did. Like, I want to really connect to the person that commented on my Instagram or who goes up to me in the gym and says that they saw me, in a competition. I want to connect with that person. I want to know I don't want to intrude on their lives, but I want to know their life story and why they're inspired by me so that I can continue to do that. So giving back to the community is huge for me as an athlete, doing clinics, hanging out with fans after competitions, interacting on social networks, and creating that human energy that I think is so lost nowadays through social media. I think is really, really important. And as the athlete, I feel it's my responsibility to do that, to represent my company as well, because through me, the company is also connecting with that customer.
Making social social.
Making social social.
Yeah.
Wow. Hashtag social social.
Well, social responsibility in of itself could probably be a form that we talked about, because again, you could go a number of different ways with that. But as a brand, yeah, we're always looking to give back to the community one way or another, and that's usually in a face-to-face engagement, whether that's something in partnership with one of our accounts or with how we activate our athletes, or organizations that we fund that is for the betterment of the planet or the sport, etc. So I believe fully in social responsibility. I'm not sure exactly how you were asking the question, but absolutely, I think it's important for the brand not to be involved in cause marketing for the sake of being involved in cause marketing, but
Right.
absolutely.
Awesome,
Yeah.
guys.
I would echo the same thing where, we can't have an outdoor industry without the outdoors from a sustainability standpoint. It's in everybody's interest to do as much proactive, protective work as possible, and we're interested in that. And obviously the causal-based marketing is a thing that people are starting to do, but to be sincerely interested in that cause is important. And for us, just echoing the same things that we've all set up here, it's just part of doing business nowadays. It's our responsibility to take care of it all, so let's do it right and be sure we're going to have an industry down the road.
Awesome. Jeff, Steve, Nina, thank you so much. Great job.
Thank you.
Great work.